The night sky over the Barents Sea is blacker than oil. No moon, no stars. Just the faint green glow of cockpit instruments inside a sleek, arrow-like silhouette slicing through the air. At twice the speed of sound, suddenly, a NATO E-3 Sentry AWACS, cruising 300 miles away, blinks its radar screen, goes blank, not jammed, blank, as if the intruder never existed. 30 seconds later, the same ghost jet reappears, this time only 40 miles behind a pair of American F-35s, on routine patrol. The Lightning E's never saw it coming. Their pilots never even got a tone. By the time the AWACS crew screams into the radio, the Russian fighter is already gone, swallowed again by the Arctic dark. That was February 2023. No shots fired, no official protest, just a quiet, chilling message. Something new is hunting in the skies, and the West's trillion-dollar air forces might not be ready for it. This is the story of Russia's deadliest fighter jet, the one Moscow never wanted the world to fully understand, the one that has American generals losing sleep, European air forces quietly rewriting war plans, and defense contractors in Fort Worth and Seattle burning the midnight oil. Its official name is the Sukhoi Su-57 fell into NATO, but in the closed cities of Siberia where it was born, pilots and engineers whisper a different name, PACFA, the future. And for the first time in 30 years, the future might not belong to the West. Imagine this. It's 1991. The Soviet Union has just collapsed. The once mighty Mikoyan and Sukhoi design bureaus are broke. Engineers who used to earn medals now trade cigarettes for bread. In the United States, the F-22 Raptor is already flying untouchable, invisible, the undisputed king of the sky. Washington celebrates the end of history. Russia, they say, will never catch up. Fast forward 20 years. While America is busy fighting insurgents with million-dollar missiles in desert wars, a small team in Zhukovsky just outside Moscow is doing something no one thought possible on a starving budget. They're rebuilding a fighter that makes the F-22 look old. The program begins in absolute secrecy. Even most Russian generals don't know the full details. The project is called PAC-FA Perspektivny Aviationy Complex Frontovoy Aviatsy Future Frontline Aviation Complex. The West laughs when fragments leak out. Russia can barely keep its MiG-29s flying, the analysts say. A fifth-generation stealth fighter? They'll be lucky to get a prototype in the air before 2030. They were wrong. January 29, 2010. A frozen airfield in Russia's Far East. A strange, bat-like aircraft taxis out under heavy guard. Matte gray paint. No markings. Twin engines howl like angry gods as it lifts into a pale Siberian sky. The T-501, the very first Su-57 prototype, has just flown. And inside the classified briefing rooms of the Pentagon, someone drops a coffee cup. Because the shape they're looking at isn't just another Russian copy of Western tech. It's something bolder, more aggressive. The Su-57 doesn't try to hide the way the F-22 does with gentle curves and perfect alignment. Instead, it weaponizes geometry, sharp edges, saw-toothed wings, and a fuselage that looks like it was carved by a razor blade. Russian engineers took one look at American stealth dogma and said, "We'll do it differently and cheaper." But the real revolution isn't the airframe. It's what's inside. Let me take you deep into one of the most guarded facilities on Earth, the Komsomolsk-on-Amur Aircraft Plant, KNAAZ, in eastern Siberia. Here, inside hangars that don't appear on any public map, engineers install a radar that breaks every rule the West thought it knew about air combat. The NO-36 Bylka, squirrel in Russian, is not one radar, it's 5. One in the nose, 2 in the cheeks, 2 more staring sideways from the leading edges of the wings. Together they give the Su-57 something no Western fighter has ever truly achieved. 360-degree situational awareness without ever turning on its main emitter at full power. Think about that. An F-35 pilot has to point his nose toward a target to get the best look with the APG-81. The Su-57, it can see you coming from behind while still running away at Mach 2. And when it decides to strike, it doesn't need to turn and burn like every fighter since 1916. It can fire missiles backwards, Yes, backwards. The R-77M and the terrifying new K-77M have rear-facing fins and a rocket motor that lights only. After launch, letting the Su-57 kill you while it's already disappearing over the horizon. This is what pilots call first look, first shot, first kill, except the Su-57 takes it to a psychotic extreme, and they declared the program a failure. Russia can't build it in meaningful numbers, they wrote in 2019, 2020, 2021. Moscow let them believe that, on purpose, because while the world was busy counting airframes, Russia was doing something far more dangerous. They were turning the Su-57 into a system of systems. Picture this, February 2022, Ukraine. A Russian Su-57 launches from an airfield deep inside Belarus. It never crosses the border. Instead, at 45,000 feet, it opens its internal weapons bays and releases a Kh-59 MK cruise missile. The missile drops, unfolds wings, and skims the treetops at 50 feet for 300 miles, guided not just by satellite, but by real-time targeting data fed from an S-70 Okhotnik drone flying alongside the felon. Like a loyal wolf, the drone is unmanned, stealthy, and expendable. The Su-57 is the quarterback. Together, they strike a Ukrainian ammunition depot that NATO thought was safely hidden. No Western radar ever saw the jet that ordered the kill. This is the real Su-57 doctrine. The manned fighter is no longer the star. It's the conductor of an orchestra of drones, hypersonic weapons, and networked sensors that turns a single aircraft into a flying battle management node. And the West is scrambling to catch up. If this is already blowing your mind, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps more people see the truth about what's happening in the skies right now. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for what comes next, because the engine story, the part everyone said would doom the program, is where Russia pulled off its greatest sleight of hand. The original Su-57 flew with interim engines, the AL-1F1, basically a souped-up version of what powers the Su-35, good enough for Mach 2, but thirsty, smoky, and very much fourth generation. The West smirked. Without the new engine, it's just a stealthy flanker with delusions of grandeur. Then, in December 2020, something quiet but seismic happened. The first aircraft with the real power plant, as Delhi-30, took to the air. 30% more thrust, fully digital controls, a nozzle that can vector in 3 dimensions, not just up and down, and most importantly, almost zero infrared signature from the front. The F-22 and F-35 still glow like Christmas trees to modern IRST sensors when they open afterburners. The new Su-57, it can supercruise at Mach 1.6 without ever lighting the blowtorch. That means it can run rings around any Western fighter while staying nearly invisible to the heat-seeking eyes that are rapidly making traditional stealth less relevant. Russian sources claim a thrust-to-weight ratio better than 1.3 to 1 in full combat loadout. For comparison, a clean F-22 is around 1.6. With weapons, it drops fast. The Su-57, on the other hand, carries its heaviest missiles internally and still outperforms most fourth-gen fighters on raw kinematics. But numbers only tell half the story. Let's talk about the weapons that make generals wake up, sweating, deep inside the 2 main weapons bays, each longer than a pickup truck. Sit missiles that sound like science fiction. The R-37M Axe-Ahead has a 250-mile range and closes at Mach 6. It was designed to kill AWACS and tankers, the soft, juicy targets that keep Western air forces alive. One Su-57 can carry 4. That means a single felon, operating from Russian airspace, can reach out and touch every NATO support aircraft over Poland or the Baltic states without ever being engaged itself. Then there's the Kinzhal hypersonic missile, yes, the same one launched from MiG-31s. But a smaller air-breathing version is being integrated into the Su-57's arsenal. Mach 10, uninterceptable by any current defense, and because it's launched from 60,000 feet at Mach 2, its effective range pushes close to 2,000 kilometers. This isn't air superiority anymore. This is air dominance on a scale the world hasn't seen since the early days of the F-15. So why haven't we seen squadrons of Su-57s over Ukraine turning the sky Russian green? The answer is colder than Siberian steel. Russia is playing the long game. Every Su-57 built today is essentially handcrafted. Titanium spars are welded in argon-filled chambers. Radar-absorbing coatings are applied in layers thinner than a human hair. The supply chain for gallium nitride transistors, the heart of the active electronically scanned array, was never fully under Moscow's control until sanctions forced them to build their own from scratch. It took years, but now Russian industry claims it can produce the critical components domestically. And the production rate that satellite imagery showed as anemic in 2021, maybe for jets a year, has quietly ramped up. Western intelligence estimates now admit Russia will have at least 76 Su-57s by 2027. With the potential to double that by 2030 if the new production lines in Komsomolsk and Novosibirsk hit their stride. That's a full regiment in every military district, more than enough to shift the balance in any European conflict. And here's the part most people still don't know. The Su-57M superversion is already flying. Unconfirmed photos leaked on Russian Telegram channels in late 2024 show an Su-57 with a radically different nose, flatter, broader, almost F-35-like. Insiders say it's the new NO-36M radar, with twice the antenna elements and gallium nitride modules. Others claim the cockpit has been completely redesigned around a panoramic heads-up display and artificial intelligence co-pilot that can fly the jet autonomously if the pilot blacks out during 11G turns. Perhaps most terrifying of all, Russia has mated the Su-57 with the S-70 Okhotnik B heavy stealth drone in what they call the loyal wingman concept. Except in Moscow's version, the drone isn't just a sensor mule, it's a missile truck that can fight on its own. During exercises in 2023, an Su-57 directed to Okhotniks to prosecute targets for 100 miles away while the manned jet stayed 200 miles behind the front line. The drone took battle damage and was simply expended. The pilot landed without a scratch. This is asymmetric warfare elevated to an art form. The West spent decades making every pilot priceless. Russia decided some pilots are expendable and built the doctrine around it. Now let us zoom out and ask the question no one in Washington wants to answer honestly. If NATO and Russia went to war tomorrow over the Baltic states, who actually owns the sky? On paper, the West still has thousands of fourth and fifth generation fighters against Russia's hundreds. But wars are not fought on paper. A single squadron of Su-57s operating from Kaliningrad could hold every airfield in Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia at risk on day one with hypersonic weapons that Patriot and NASAMS were never designed to stop. AWACS would be pushed back hundreds of miles, blinding the alliance. F-35s trying to penetrate that bubble would face a fighter that can out-accelerate them, outturn them at low speed, thanks to 3D thrust vectoring, and detect them long before its own radar cross-section becomes a problem. And remember, Russia only needs to deny NATO air superiority for 72 hours. That's how long it takes for ground-based S-400 and S-500 systems to roll forward under the crumbling air umbrella and turn the battlefield into a no-fly zone for everyone else. This is the nightmare scenario that keeps Allied air command planners awake in Ramstein. But there's another layer to this story that almost no one talks about: money. Building an F-22 in 2020 for dollars would cost close to $400 million per copy. The F-35 program is now approaching $2 trillion in lifetime costs. Russia claims the flyaway price of a fully equipped Su-57M is under $50 million. Even if the real number is double that, it's still revolutionary. Moscow can flood export markets: India, Algeria, Vietnam, maybe even Turkey if the S-400 saga taught us anything, with a fighter that embarrasses the F-35 in beyond visual range combat and costs a fraction as much. Imagine Indian Su-57s with BrahMos 2 hypersonic missiles patrolling the Himalayas. Imagine Algerian felons over the Mediterranean forcing French Rafales to keep one eye over their shoulder. Imagine Iran with a poor man's version in 5 years. This isn't just about Russia versus NATO anymore. It is about a complete reshaping of global air power and who gets to sell the 21st century's most lucrative weapon. And the scariest part? Russia is already working on the next leap. Deep inside Moscow's Central Aerohydrodynamic Institute, wind tunnel models of a 6th-generation fighter have been photographed. Tailless, plasma stealth, optionally manned, powered by a variable cycle engine that can switch between high-thrust and ultra-efficient modes. Mid-flight, some rumors say it will use directed-energy weapons lasers, powerful enough to blind satellite sensors or burn incoming missiles out of the sky. Whether those programs mature or not, the psychological impact is already real. For the first time since the Cold War, American aerospace giants are not setting the pace, they're reacting. Lockheed Martin's secretive skunk works is rushing something called the Next Generation Air Dominance NGAD program, but costs are ballooning past $300 million per aircraft before weapons. Congress is asking hard questions. Meanwhile, Russia just keeps building, slowly, methodically, and very, very quietly. So here we are in 2025. The Su-57 is no longer a prototype or a paper tiger. It's operational, it's evolving, and it has forced the West to confront a question no one thought they'd have to ask again. What if we're not the undisputed masters of the air anymore? The Felon hasn't won a war yet. It hasn't shot down an F-35 in combat, but it has already achieved something more profound. It has restored uncertainty. For 30 years, Western pilots knew no matter what happened on the ground, the sky was theirs. That certainty is gone. And uncertainty is the most dangerous weapon of all. Now the real question is, are we heading toward a new arms race in the heavens, one that makes the Cold War look quaint? Or is this the moment when the balance of power tilts quietly, irrevocably eastward, one Mach 2 shadow at a time? I want to know what you think. In the comments, tell me if it came down to it. Would you bet on the Su-57 or on the combined might of the West finally waking up? Whose sky is it now? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single one. And if you want to stay ahead of what's coming next, not just in the air, but in every domain where power is being rewritten, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the stories I am working on right now will change the way you see the world for good. The future is already flying, and it speaks Russian.